We'll discuss the program with her and the block grant proposal. After that, council will have an opportunity to question her. After that, if there's any member of the public that would like to opine on this matter, please, you can come forward at that time, give your name and address, and either ask your question or make your comment. Ms. Nallman.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I'm joined this morning by our Rehabilitation Program Coordinator, Mike Jones. He'll be up here in just a moment as well. So you've heard this before, but this is our annual public hearing on our Community Development Block Grant application. Just a little bit of background about the program. We apply for this funding every year. We apply for this funding on behalf of all various municipalities throughout Sussex County as well as rural communities. The funding comes from HUD, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and it's funneled through the Delaware State Housing Authority, and we apply competitively against Kent County. DSHA, the Housing Authority, does govern this grant process and determine what eligible projects and activities we are able to apply for. So the way our guidelines sort of dictate the use of funding, we primarily use this funding for owner-occupied housing rehabilitation, which maintains our housing stock throughout Sussex County. Our housing rehabs include roofing, doors, windows, electrical and plumbing upgrades, as well as some energy upgrades. In order to qualify, a home must be owner-occupied. It must be the primary residence of the owner. It must be a low to moderate income household, 80% of the area median income or below. The home must be insured or insurable, and county taxes and utilities must be current. We do place a lien on every property that we assist, regardless of age of the beneficiary. For anything less than $15,000, we put a 5-year zero-interest prorated lien. So at 5 years, it's considered satisfied. And for anything from $15,000 to $40,000 of funding that we invest, it's a 10-year zero-interest prorated forgivable lien. So these are the current income guidelines for program eligibility. For a two-person household, for example, they actually went up pretty substantially this year from last year. For two people, you must earn less than $53,800 for a household of two. So I think this is where, okay. So this is FY20. We just closed this grant out, which is actually the county's fiscal year 21. We received about $1.9 million in CDBG and home funding, which again was also used for housing rehab. I won't read all of those, but those are the various target areas that we were awarded funding for. We assisted 134 households, 236 individuals, all low to mod income. And the breakdown right there, significant amount of them were disabled and elderly households, female head of households. Many of them were earning less than 30% of the area median income. Most of the folks that we're helping are elderly and on fixed income. And then County Council provided an additional $250,000 to assist with emergency repairs for that. And so our current progress right now, we are powering through our fiscal year 21 and 22 funding, and we received a little over $2 million for both. With actually fiscal year 21, we are just about completely spent. We just have a couple of little remaining items to clear out, and again, each year County Council has provided emergency repair funding to leverage those dollars. And with the current year, which is County Council 23 fiscal year, we are about a third of the way spent, but we've obligated probably closer to half of that funding. And so I think this is where I turn it over to Mike, and I'll be the PowerPoint person.
Good morning, she said.
Talk about our current year, what we've done so far. With the contractors, this situation is a competitive market we're in right now with dealing with all the other building going on in the county. It affects us as well as anybody else in the county that's trying to get a contractor to bid on a job. Luckily, we're doing as well as we've ever done. I was telling Brandy, I've been doing this 25 years, and I feel like we're the best this year than we've ever been as far as contractors getting stuff done, even with everything going on in the market right now. Finding new contractors, we're always in the market for new contractors, especially HVAC guys, plumbers, electricians. They're the hardest ones. And if you talk to any general contractor out there, everybody's having the same problem, finding enough good people to work for you. The project delays, this big delay right now is windows, getting the windows. It takes 6 to 8 weeks to get windows in. And then sometimes they just tell you to be in tomorrow, which if you look at a calendar, there's never a tomorrow on the calendar. So that's some of the issues we're having. And then cost increases. Randy was saying that they have upgraded some of our money that we've been receiving. Some of our different projects, we can go up to $40,000 for that. And not that we're getting a whole lot more done. Everything costs so much more. The cost alone, just with labor costs, and then the cost of the product, it's tremendous. Just let you see a few houses we've done. And some of you probably in your town, you maybe know these houses are. This is one right in Seaford. This is a woman, a single mother with a couple kids. And siding had blown off. The right side picture had blown off the house years ago. Keeping this house warm was just about impossible with the type siding you had on there. So we come back with that and did some work for her, did some windows, did some siding. This is what it ended up looking like. Tremendous difference in the house. Like we all know, a lot of times with these older people and they have grandchildren or raised or whatever, and you can't keep a house warm, so you just start going down to smaller rooms. Small rooms, end up living like in 2 rooms the whole house. And we allowed them to live in their whole house after we got done doing this job. She's very happy. This is a great job we've worked on this year. This is a lady, she's deaf. She lives in the town of Silverville. And we've been trying to help her for a while now, trying to get everything going on her. She has some issues. But she had no carpet, no vinyl in the house, all just plywood floors in the house. She had a skylight that was leaking so bad. She had a big trash can underneath that, and it rained in it every time. So, and then she had a lot of issues beside that. But that's just a couple to touch on. And then we come back, and we did some work on her house, and then there she is, tickled to death.
Could I just add, too, because this did require, we arranged for interpretation, American Sign Language interpretation for our contractors as well as for our office to go out there. And we had a really great partnership with a volunteer from St. Vincent de Paul Society who has worked with her for a long time to make sure that this could get done. There were some deed issues with the property, so she was very excited to finally get our help, and it was a great story.
Because there was a couple times there we weren't sure if that was going to happen or not. This house just outside of Greenwood, just north of it, north of town. An elderly person. There's another issue with can't keep the house warm. Everything he did to keep the house warm enough. He was handicapped. His ramp was falling apart as well. And we come in with some siding and some windows and a new ramp for him, everything, and just made a tremendous difference in the house. Because y'all know is what we can't do. We can't go inside and try to tear out walls and try to insulate that way. It's much better to just go from the outside, put some half-inch foam on the outside, get our R value there, the new siding there, and the windows. It makes a big difference. This is a project we had. A gentleman, this family had a fire. They have a husband and wife, 5 kids, lived in a single wide home. They had a fire. The insurance only pays for so much to fix the house back up. They got this far, did some roll roofing on the roof, and did some what they could outside. It was the plywood floors of the house had so much gaps in it couldn't keep the house warm. So we come inside, did floors and the siding and skirting and the roof and everything. And this was right at Christmas time. Couldn't have been a better time. And they had a great Christmas because of that, be able to get this work done. And it was awesome. And they were very happy with everything that went on there. So. Great job.
Okay. So I wanted to give you a quick little update about the leveraging that we're doing with those federal dollars that we're getting. Thank you again to County Council, who has increased our emergency repair funding to have $300,000. I can't tell you how nice it is to have that flexible funding to really leverage against the federal funding that we have and just really be able to assist with emergency repairs like heater repair and replacement, busted pipes for plumbing issues, dangerous electrical situations. All of that funding goes to help those situations. You also granted us an additional $500,000 that we have devoted for similar repairs using the ARPA funding. We have, I think, less than $100,000 left of that funding right now, so we're getting through that as well. And then, as you know, we just recently approved the workforce housing ordinance, the new housing trust fund, and again, the additional ARPA funding, which is being used to help with tax issues, sewer connections, and then the emergency repairs. And again, just what your funds are being used for is all those emergency type of things, handicap accessibilities, severe leaking roofs. We do try to prioritize individuals with disabilities, those over 65, and really low income households. And this just gives you a sense of how those funds, the emergency council dollars, are being used. A lot of times it's for plumbing, some electrical, just some general quick repairs and heaters and ramps. This is just what we've used those dollars on and the funding that we've been given. Mike and I were just talking about this, that it may look a little, we're still in the progress of this year's funding. You've allowed us to go up a little bit more to spend on emergency repairs for $10,000 a case. As Mike mentioned, that's not really allowing us to do much more. It's basically just to counter some of the product price increases. So it may not look as though we're helping as many people. It's just the cost of things have really increased, but we're still working through that funding this year. And to get into this year's grant application, so we start this process in October. We work with Mr. Lawson, and Nicole in our office sends out letters to every municipality in Sussex County to offer our assistance with applying for them for this grant. We follow up with emails and letters and calls to try to get them to participate. And so we went to, I believe, 13 different municipalities this year to have public hearings. 11 public hearings, and then including today's. And we had our advisory board meeting. We really stressed this year, we had this come up last year if you remember, waiting list is a really important component to the application process. We have to be able to demonstrate a need in every town that we're applying for. So the state requires us to have a minimum of 4 people on our waiting list for every area that we're applying for. And we have really struggled with getting towns to assist us with getting those names. This year we sort of went above and beyond. We actually put several ads in newspapers throughout the county in sort of not the normal legalese that we put out there, but a very layman's version of our advertisement, inciting people to please apply if you live within town limits. And we just have really had a hard time getting those, and we know there's a need. So there's a few towns that we actually weren't even able to apply for, even though we went to a public hearing, because they just weren't able to get us and help us get that waiting list where we needed it to be, unfortunately.
Brandy,
Yes.
Is that why I've seen Georgetown, Millsboro on there on
Yes.
the previous years, but not this year?
Correct.
Is
So
that because they didn't have enough people on the waiting list?
they actually, Georgetown and Millsboro did not elect to even do a public hearing this year, so we did not even present. This year it was Milford and Blades that we went to, and then they were not able to move forward with an application because they did not have sufficient demand on their waiting list.
Is the application process cumbersome or?
For me,
Well,
but not for them. So
not
the
for the
only thing
towns?
the only thing that we require of the towns is to basically, they are required to pay for the advertisement for the public hearing. We have the public hearing at one of their already scheduled town council meetings. It's not a special meeting. And then we do everything else. They just have to sign some paperwork. We handle the waiting lists. We handle all of the eligibility of the applicants. It's a very minimal effort on the town's part, at least in my opinion. We do all of the actual application work and preparation and all of that. So it is really disappointing, and we have talked about this a lot in our office of how we can make sure that we really do some outreach in advance of the letters going out to make sure that towns understand what's available to them and what they're missing out on.
Give me a heads up. I'll ring the bell.
Will do, yes, will do. And then we also worked with our advisory committee, and sort of we have this sort of rotational system of the rural communities that we're helping, our impacted communities. We did a study a few years ago. If you remember, there are 14 that we target, and so you'll see the list of those as well. Okay, and so you can, this is hard to see, I'm sorry, but we have elected to, this year, we're going to be doing, as far as our rural communities, Cool Spring, which is just outside of Milton and Lewis off of Route 9, Coverdale Crossroads in Bridgeville, Green Top, which is a little area outside of Lincoln, and then rural Ellendale, which incorporates South Old State Road and the New Hope community. And we hope to actually continue to help some of our engineering colleagues as well, just to make sure with the water district, helping make sure that those homeowners have quality heating systems and to protect the new water connections as well. So this is our recommended list of areas that we plan to seek funding for. You should have sort of the more formal application in your packet, but these are the towns: Bridgeville, Del Mar, Ellendale, Frankfort, Greenwood, Laurel, Milton, Seaford, and Selbyville. Again, we went to all of these towns and sought their input and approval. The larger towns with larger waiting lists, we're applying for a little bit more funding. The other towns are smaller and don't have as much of a demand based on their waiting list, so that's why their funding is a little bit less for a request. As I mentioned, these are the 4 rural communities, and then we will continue to hopefully get funding for handicap accessibility, which includes accessible showers, and ramps and that sort of thing. Widened doorways. Scattered emergency is additional funding that we get through the state for emergency repairs. Hookups, connections to public water and sewer systems, and then scattered rehab and roofing, which means we can kind of use that in any unincorporated areas for various projects. So this is the total cost. Program activity is $1.7 million. The state has allowed us to seek $250,000 in administration, which we would have to match that. And based on prior years, this is the recommended match, and for a total program cost of $2.3 million. So I'll pause there if there's any questions or comments.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Mr. Schaefer.
The lien periods you mentioned, is that just those are placed on the properties and make sure the client's not profiteering if they sell?
Exactly. So we don't want to improve a property, have them flip it, and yes.
So it's fully forgiven after that
Yes.
lien period?
There's no payments, there's no interest or anything like that.
I would say, as usual, a great job by your department and Mike and everybody involved.
Thank you.
Very good.
There's probably, well, I won't speak on this council, none of us have had to live like that.
Yeah.
And to realize that what you're doing really is you're affecting their life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're affecting their life and give them a better opportunity. And for that, we thank you. And
Yep.
I know our money is well spent, the federal money is well spent, and we will continue, I'm sure, to support that in the way you need us to do that.
Thank you.
I'd also say if there are towns that we need to talk to a little harder, we can undertake that project too.
Okay. So noted.
I'm sure most towns out there, at least from the middle over to the west, could use help. So,
Yes.
any questions of council? I bet you got a motion.
I
Well,
didn't
we need
know if
to
any
have the
public-
public
sorry.
hearing
I'm
first.
sorry.
Yes.
I'm going to have to approve this thing.
That's right, you're in a hurry. Okay, thank you, Brenda. Is there anyone here today that would like to comment on this program? Is there anyone in the room that would like to comment? Matter. Council desires closed public record.
Close public hearing, we'll give council close public record. And I guess what you have is resolutions.
I do. So I don't know if, Mr. Moore, am I permitted to just read the short title, or do you
Yes,
want me
The
to
short
read that?
title, yes.
Okay, so for the first resolution I have for you, which should be in your packet as well, is related to affirmatively furthering fair housing.
Pleasure, council.
Move for adoption.
Motion, Mr. Riley.
Second.
Second, Mr. Hudson. Questions on the motion? We'll take the vote. Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
I vote yes. Next, man.
Thank you. Okay, the second and last one that I have for you is the authorization to submit applications.
Pleasure, council.
Move for adoption. Second.
Motion, Mr. Hudson. Second, Mr. Schaefer. Questions on the motion? Take the vote. Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mrs. Green?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Riley?
Yes.
I vote yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
you and your staff
Thank you very
much.
much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy. Thank you.
Yes.